Good evening, and welcome to the Grand Forks Herald 2020 mayoral debate, featuring the three candidates who were on the June 9 ballot. There's a lot at stake this year. Tonight, the candidates will, I assume, tell us about the experiences they've had that will make them the best mayor to lead Grand Forks into the future. What is our future? A few months ago, perhaps we had a clearer picture, but in recent weeks, it's quite possible the city's future has changed as Grand Forks, as North Dakota, and as the nation deals with the coronavirus pandemic and the financial quandary it's created. Ridiculously low unemployment in the region has flipped. We were at 2.4%, and now it's likely in double digits. The city's budget will require great work in the coming months, and some of the chief economic drivers in the community are struggling with their own pandemic-related financial issues. That's why this election, perhaps more than any since the Red River flood of 1997, is so important. Tonight, we'll ask questions of these three and hope to put some distance between them so voters have a clear picture of the best person to lead the city, to lead us forward. I'd also like to point out the good work done recently by the young professionals who hosted these three recently in a forum setting. And I'd like to point out that others will take up the effort after tonight, including the Grand Forks Chamber of Commerce and KNOX Radio. It's important we all watch, listen, and read to learn all we can about these candidates in the final weeks of the election campaign. Joining us tonight are Brandon Bochenski, Mike Brown, and Robin David. They are the three candidates whose names appear on the ballot that voters will receive in the mail, provided they've filled out the requisite application form. Bochenski and David are challengers, and Brown is the incumbent. Now, a few notes about tonight's debate. Each candidate gets 2 minutes for opening statements. The order was determined earlier in the week. After opening statements, we'll begin a series of 9 questions that will be drawn in random order. Each candidate gets 60 seconds to answer. After each is answered, we'll allow another 30 seconds for rebuttals or other comments. I'll give a signal with 15 seconds remaining, whereupon candidates should start to wrap up their comments. The candidates will rotate, so they'll get at least 3 chances to answer first, 3 chances to answer second, and 3 chances to answer last. Candidates have been asked to not go beyond their time limit, and also have been asked to not receive any sort of help from electronic devices or off-camera advisors. However, they were encouraged to compile notes to help with their answers. With that, let's begin with our opening statements. And again, the order of the opening statements was determined by chance earlier in the week, and the candidates were notified of that yesterday. So the first opening statement today, Robin David, you have 2 minutes.
Right. Thank you, Corey, and thank you to the Grand Forks Herald for pulling this together in complicated circumstances. I also wanted to thank the people of Grand Forks for tuning in tonight, and also wanted to thank them for all they have done in the previous weeks and months to ensure this community is safe and well. This has not been an easy stretch for anyone. People are hurting, people are concerned about their businesses, their paychecks, their health, their children's well-being, and their families. This has been a difficult stretch, and we know that the path forward is going to be challenging as well. The coming weeks and months hold a great deal of uncertainty. What I will offer tonight is not a magic wand. The people of Grand Forks are too smart for that. They know that one simple solution is not going to fix everything. What I am going to offer is 2 specific things. Number 1, a reminder that we can do this. We have done this. The city of Grand Forks knows more about recovery than any community would probably want to. We are strong, we are smart, we are hardworking, creative, and we have a sense of collaboration that's going to serve us very well. We can do this, and we will. And second, I'm going to offer a path forward with a COVID response plan that will include specific elements to make sure that we learn from errors in our past and that we can ensure that those same mistakes will not happen again. The 3 elements of a retail and restaurant task force, a poverty partnership, and a health and well-being plan will make sure that the next coming years are going to prevent the outbreaks that we've seen and ensure that people are able to remain well and healthy in our recovery period. We can do this, Grand Forks, and we will.
Mike Brown, 2 minutes. Mike, 1 moment, please. We're going to start the 2 minutes again. Unmute. There you go. Thank you. And your 2 minutes starts now.
Good, thank you. So this is a pivotal election in our city's history, and I'm very proud of what we have accomplished in the last 20 years. We were the poster child of flood recovery, according to FEMA, after the flood of 1997. We are the gold standard of military communities supporting their military men and women, according to Chief of Staff of the Air Force, General Goldfein. And now we're on an unprecedented billion-dollar boom in construction in our community. I feel we've been a very good steward of the money that the country invested in our community after the flood. So why am I running for mayor? Because I love this job. I need 4 more years to finish the things that we started. As a physician, I'd like the opportunity to guide us through this pandemic. I have a long history with Grand Forks. I've been here 45 years. I was stationed here in 1975 as a missile launch officer. And then I served as an OBGYN doctor at the base. I've been an all-true OBGYN for 30 years, and I've had the privilege of being mayor for 20 years. We have a lot of challenges ahead of us, but right now we have the billion-dollar boom, which includes JR Simplot Freezer, $60 million distribution center, Red River Biorefinery, North Dakota Mill Elevator, and the Northern Plains nitrogen is going to be coming to town. We're hoping that's a $2.7 billion value-added agriculture thing. We also look at what we've done downtown and look at proposed new developments that we're going to have in the future. So my last dream is to have a Microsoft Tech Park, and it turns out the Federal CARES Act is funding things like research and young people to get our city into the next generation. And we have to elevate ourselves out of this pandemic and this economic crisis. So now more than ever, I think experienced leadership is important. And I have been privileged to work with a great community, have collaborations between the Park District, the school district, the county, and Altru, and the chamber, and the Grand Forks Air Force Base. So I'm proud of the collaborations we've had, and I'm proud of the success that we've had.
Very good. Brandon?
Well, hi, I'm Brandon Bochensky. First, I want to thank everyone out for tuning in as well, and you, Mr. Wenzel, for putting this together and that nice talk that you had there. And I also want to thank my opponents. Campaigning's tough, and it's hard on our families, and it's great to see that we have people that are willing to put ourselves out there and take on this challenge. It's going to be a challenge here going forward, but I got faith, and I know we can do it. I'm not a politician. I was an athlete, now I'm a businessman. I've worked hard my entire life. I grew up poor and was raised by a single mother. We had to fight for everything we ever got. And despite the success that I've had in sports and in business, I've never forgot where I came from. And I think that's really important. We have a poverty and a housing problem in this town, and it can't be ignored any longer. Wages are too low and the costs are too high. Most families have little disposable income and are living paycheck to paycheck. And the COVID virus has just shown us how vulnerable we are. And, with that, businesses have struggled as well. They're suffering despite the amazing ingenuity and the business skills to still operate. Businesses are suffering, and they were suffering before this COVID had happened. I have a solid concrete plan to turn us around, turn us in the right direction. It's not complicated. It's easy to understand. It's simple. I'm a strong leader, but I'm also a fair leader. I'm willing to learn. I've always been able to inspire those around me, and this community is in need of inspiration like no other time. And I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to UND a long time ago. That springboarded me to a 15-year career that brought me all over the world. And when that career ended, I'm bringing my experience and my knowledge back to the community that I love. I only got involved in this campaign to make this a better place to live for everybody. I mean, it's as simple as that. I want a better future for my family. I want a better future for your family. I think we can do better. And these are the kind of positive stories that I think our community should be promoting. A big part of me running was that, good people are getting scared away from politics, from the kind of the nasty cancel culture that we live in. And,
Hi, Brandon.
all right.
Thank you. Very good. And our first question, remember the questions are drawn random in a random order. So answering first is Brandon, followed by Mike, and then Robin. You each get 60 seconds for an answer, and then you'll get 30 seconds in that same order for rebuttal. First question, give a grade to Mike Brown's most recent term as mayor and explain in detail why you've attached that grade.
Oh, geez, we're going to start with that one. I'll give Mayor Brown we'll give him a C+. I think, I'm not here to beat up Mayor Brown. I think he's done a good job with a lot of things, but he has a different leadership style than I do. He lets sort of the administrators take over. In my opinion, we just need a little bit more oversight. We need a stronger leader that's going to be in there every day. That's willing to fight for our community more than just one day a week. And you can kind of see with this crisis that we need someone that's there all the time, and we're going to need someone there all the time to build us up again. So I'm definitely not here to beat him up. I think he's done the best he can, but we just have a different leadership style. So.
Okay. Mike?
We do have a different leadership style, and I wish it was one day a week. We've been doing listening sessions every day of the week. This is my economic recovery plan, and this is what has gotten us to where we are over 20 years. And I would give us an A+ for what we've done. And my last state of the city was a joy, because we got to thank the people that got us here, and we got to say where we are, and then we got to paint a vision for the future. And that's why I really enjoy these state of the cities. And the $1 billion boom, I talked to Mayor Mahoney yesterday. He wishes he had $1 billion worth of construction. Grand Forks does. You can't drive around town without seeing bulldozers. And people wouldn't invest in this town if they didn't have faith in our future. So look at what's proposed downtown. There's so much going on. We have a great school system. And my leadership is collaboration. I have over 400 years of experience in my department heads. And why wouldn't I depend on that? Why wouldn't I use that? So that has been my leadership style, and I feel it's been very successful.
Okay. Robin?
All right, thank you. Having spent much of my life in the classroom, I haven't graded anyone for a couple of years, and students know it's hard to earn an A from me. I would absolutely give a solid B here. I think there's been really fabulous things that have happened. And I think that Mayor Brown's strength is in green lighting projects and initiatives and seeing things to go forward. I would disagree with Brandon, and I don't think that the city staff need oversight. What I do think they could benefit from is more energy and vision and involvement from the leadership. And that would be the difference that I would bring to the role, is not overseeing, not micromanaging, but they're at the helm to work with them on bigger visions.
Is that all, Robin?
I'm good.
Okay. So 30 seconds for rebuttals. Brandon?
Well, I'm glad that the city employees gave themselves good grades. That's a little bit of an easier one. Having $1 billion boom, that is great that we've had investors that were willing to come into town. And I would say that it hasn't necessarily been all the city that's brought them in. We've had some really bold and willing entrepreneurs. I wouldn't say,
Yeah.
It's not fully in spite of the city, but that $1 billion boom was going to happen one way or another. And I'm glad we didn't get in the way.
Not so. This is the $1 billion worth of construction going on. People have faith in this community because of what we've accomplished from the flood of 97. We went through the recession. We went through the tankers, losing the tankers. We went through the UND being downsized. We've had a lot of kicks in the shins in this community, and people continue to step up and invest in it. And so this is what I'm proud of. My staff, how do we get to yes? How do we make this place better? I want to create the community where I want to live. And so that's been my focus. How do we make Grand Forks a place that's art friendly, people friendly?
Okay. And Robin?
All right. I think the biggest strength that we have with the city is within our staff. I have only worked as an employee of the city for a year, have collaborated for 10 years before that. And the quality of people that we have there has been so impressive to me, the professionalism and the ability. And we need to do what we can to keep them there, keep them in the public sector, because they're doing a great deal of good.
Okay. The second question, Mike, you'll start. Robin, you'll be second. Brandon, you'll be third. There's been much discussion in recent years about another bridge for traffic to cross the Red River between Grand Forks and East Grand Forks. Should a bridge be built? Where do you suggest it be placed? And what would you do with the residents as far as visitation or conversations with the residents in those areas that would be affected? Mike.
The bridge question. So ideally, if you go to other cities, you have a bridge every mile. Well, our planning, we've been asleep. So we finally woke up when it got to 47. So the city owns the land to the river. There's one driveway on that. A Merrifield Bridge, we've always wanted an agricultural bridge to keep the traffic from downtown, the beat trucks. We want to keep them down. So that's a given. It's a totally different project. They're two separate issues. And East Grand Forks wants us to be a good neighbor. So that brought up the discussion. And so, and it'll never be built in my lifetime, especially if there's no money. But we plan for 47th. It'll be a high bridge, because why spend money on a bridge that's going to be closed 3 weeks out of the year? So, and it has to come to the people to decide what to do with it. But if you look at logically in planning, the city has been planning for a bridge at that point. But will it happen? I don't know.
Robin?
Yes, we do need a bridge. And I realize people are frustrated because it's been decades that these conversations have been having. We know the budget crisis may affect things as well. My concern with naming a bridge location up front is that we don't yet know the expenses of these various locations. And this is not a time to be asking the taxpayers to write a blank check. We need that information. We need to know what kind of funding will come from both sides of the river before we make that final decision. So absolutely yes, and absolutely the neighbors need to be engaged. This will not be an easy process for anyone. It will be difficult, and we need to make sure that we have opportunities for conversation and support wherever the bridge is put. It's a situation that the city has faced previously with flooding and deciding what's going to happen to those homes. We've been through it before, and we need to make sure that we're communicating with people.
Very good. Brandon?
I think we got to get to work and get the Merrifield Bridge done. And, you know, it has to be a high bridge that's not closed. I think that's pretty obvious. Let's see how the traffic patterns are after that and get the beat trucks off of driving through downtown. And the reason I really like the Merrifield Bridge is because, you know, there might be other bridges that may benefit more economically, but they all hurt somebody. So we're pitting neighborhoods against other neighborhoods. And I've had conversations with neighbors in both places. So I don't like displacing people. We've developed this side of the river and the east side hasn't. So it may benefit, but going out and hurting people to put a bridge there, I just don't think is the answer. So let's get the Merrifield Bridge done and see where we're at.
All right. So now everybody gets 30 seconds for a rebuttal, starting with Mike.
I think it's all been said.
Very good. Robin?
Yes, I recognize that this is a very complicated issue, and it would be much easier to say certain neighborhoods are absolutely hands off. I will acknowledge that this is a difficult time for everyone to figure out where this should be, but we just don't have the funding to offer to pay the full bridge cost ourselves.
Okay, Brennan?
Merrifield Road.
Could you have stretched that out over 30 seconds, Brandon? Okay.
I'd spell it, but I might get it wrong. So.
Okay. The third question. First up is Robin, followed by Brandon, followed by Mike. The pandemic has created chaos in the local economy. If elected, what steps will you specifically take to try to address possible budget deficits, unemployment, or other economic crises associated with the pandemic? Robin.
Absolutely. I think one of the first things that I would be doing is implementing a restaurant and retail task force. We saw that movements were made on certain issues very quickly. And now we're in an extended period of time where retail is still facing long-term challenges. We need to make sure that those actual business owners, entrepreneurs, some people who started their businesses in the midst of all of this, that those people are engaged and that we're taking recommendations from them about what it is that they need to see to be able to keep their businesses open and keep our economy going. That's a key portion of it. What kinds of decisions that the city will have to make? Obviously, we have reserve funds and that will serve the city well in emergency situations like these. There may come a time where we need to have those conversations with department heads about what they might need to do certain expenses have already been cut, if certain other elements will need to be cut as well. Very difficult decisions.
Brandon?
Well, I think, we were in a little bit of an economic slump before this, and my plan that I put out then, I think holds even more true now. We need a leader that's business friendly and that's going to stand up for the business community and the jobs and the employees in this town. We need to we need to get control on our taxes. I think we're an overtaxed community, and it's going to become much more difficult now with the sales tax, not knowing the revenue is there. So it's going to become more challenging, but it's something that we need to work really hard at. And thirdly, we need to use our economic development money. We have a lot of money in buildings and sitting in commercial buildings that's doing nothing. That money needs to be out there creating economic development, whether it's loans or other type of development, or using that as a property tax net. There's just sitting in a building does not make any sense. And we've been doing that for too long, and we've been continuing to do that even in the last year.
Mike?
There's so much misinformation that a minute is not long enough to refute it all. So here is the Mayor's Economic Recovery Agenda Group, Advisory Group. And who's on that? Alaris Financial, Aerospace Foundation, Edgewood, All True Health System. The Economic EDC is on there. The Council President, Council Vice President, JDA Chairman, the Chamber President, and a UND graduate advisor. So all these things are being done now. And we're doing, I'm supposed to get a report Monday, which I bring to council to say how we're going to move forward with this pandemic. As far as taxes are too high, this is how much it costs to live in Grand Forks. So we are $934 per capita. Fargo is $932 per capita. Bismarck's $812 per capita. West Fargo is $1,334 per capita to live in this city. So I think we're very well managed and very well appropriated. As far as cuts made in the future, we'll assess that as we go on. But right now we have reserves. We're using those to keep doing our job of protect and serve.
30 seconds for rebuttal, starting with Robin, and go ahead.
Absolutely. The distinction that I bring to the table is my specialty of making sure that we have broad engagement. We absolutely need the key institutions that Mayor Brown mentioned. What we also need is to make sure that we have average people who own businesses, who are involved with these and impacted by these things also at the table. I think there's an opportunity to expand and make sure that their input is being considered as well.
Brandon?
Well, we were told 2 months ago that we were in a sweet spot and we couldn't cut taxes, or we couldn't cut our expenses. And then, a week ago at the council meeting, we cut 9.6 million out of nowhere, basically going off of what I had suggested with capital improvements, projects being prioritized, and a freeze on new hiring. So they've already sort of instituted that plan. We've got $25 million worth of commercial buildings sitting there. We don't need to do that. The 3 million shortfall that we have after that cutting could have easily come from the building that we purchased last fall in the Herald building. We'd have that money sitting there right now if we didn't spend it.
And Mike, 30 seconds. Hey, I'm going to share the screen with you. This is Grand Forks taxes going from 195 mills to 90 mills. That shows you what we've done over 20 years. The city takes in $4 million less per year to do our job. The Herald building is a collaborative center. We bought it for $2.7 million. It was going to cost us $13 million to build a new city hall. The corporate buildings are on lease to purchase, and they're going to be sold this year. So all of our things that we planned over 20 years are coming to fruition. So I'm very proud of what we've done.
Our fourth question. Brandon, you'll lead off on this, followed by Mike and then Robin. Pretend for a moment the pandemic didn't occur. Some have viewed the local economy as strong, with a building boom throughout the community. Others view it as faltering, with numerous retail business closures, a decline in visitation, and so forth. What's the most accurate description, and who or what deserves the credit or the blame? Brandon, 60 seconds.
Well, I think when you talk about economic growth in general, I'm talking about $1 million boom or $1 billion boom. Doesn't matter if people aren't making enough money to be able to live here. Our median household income is lacking in the state. We have the lowest of any of the major cities at $48,000. People can't afford to live here. Until we have a way to raise those wages, it's not really going to matter if our economy is strong. That's the economic growth that I'm fighting for. Those are the people that I'm fighting for. And you can't put a blame on everybody or put a blame on anyone, but everyone's going to work together to fix it.
Okay. Mike, 60 seconds.
Well, the world is changing and we're all going through that. And as far as the median income, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, the median income in Grand Forks was $48,000 in 2000. Right now it is $89,200, the median family income. So the world is changing. The world is looking for experiential things. Retail, yes, we love it, but we can't defend something that's not doing what it's supposed to. So I think we be proactive. We visit with the people from the Columbia Mall. How are we going to make that happen? Maybe it's mixed use, but I think our city we get a good value for our tax dollar. And I think we're progressing and people want to invest in it. So I think that's a misconception.
And Robin, 60 seconds.
Yes. We absolutely have a good number of good things happening in Grand Forks surrounding the economy and retail. That said, we also have to acknowledge we have real challenges facing us too. And that includes issues like affordable housing that prevent our economy from growing further if we don't have places where people can come to live. We know that we have concerns with poverty here that are more serious than in other North Dakota cities. Those are a critical part of our economy that we need intentional effort around. So again, I'll be happy to champion all of the development that's happening around Grand Forks. What is missing right now, what the next step is to focus on those specific challenges that we have around poverty and affordable housing, because that's critical to making sure our economy can be stable and grow.
Now 30 seconds each for rebuttal. Brandon?
We've got a lot of great opportunity that can be unlocked in this town between UND, the Air Force Base, Ultra. We have some really great entities in this town that we can champion and we can make the economy much better. When you're looking at median household income versus family income, there's a big difference. Family income takes into account that there's 2 earners, 3 kids, and a dog. Median household income is the households versus the income that they're making. That's who pays the bills. That's where the affordability issue is. We need to focus on that number.
Mike, 30 seconds.
Well, in medicine, you have to recognize the problem, then you have to deal with the problem. So this is the Mayor's Blue Ribbon Commission on Affordable Housing, which we just had with Mike Bergeron and Dana Sandy chairing this group. And we came up with things that helped us make housing more affordable by decreasing engineering and by delaying specials. And then this 0.5% sales tax that we got the city to pass. When you have specials in front of your house, 80% the city pays for and 20% you pay for. So I think we're addressing it. We're looking at it. We're trying to fix it.
And Robin, 30 seconds.
I will agree that the Blue Ribbon Commission has made progress, and that's, again, housing is not a problem that's fixed easily. It's a lot of work and it takes time to see results. That said, we are not where we need to be. People are still having challenges with housing, and we need to go back to the table and see what needs to be done next, whether that is asking developers what we need to do to incent the development of affordable housing, smaller lots, infill development, community land trust. We need to be intentional about those efforts because there's much more work to do.
Okay. Question 5. It will start with Mike, followed by Robin, and then Brandon. Robin, you've discussed using city tax breaks or incentives for solving certain community problems. Can you give us some specific examples or a proposal? And other candidates, I'd like your thoughts on this. So it actually begins with Mike for 60 seconds.
Say that again.
Sure. Robin has discussed using city tax breaks or incentives for solving community problems. So give me a specific example of that example. That's for her. And also, what are your thoughts on it, Brandon and Mike? Starting with Mike for 60 seconds.
Well, I think the city, we create the environment where people want to invest, but we have TIFs, we have things like that. And that's the beautiful thing about these delayed taxes. You're collecting this much on the land, and then when it's developed, you collect this much. If you don't invest with the developer, you get this forever. So I think us being actively involved in development, I think is a good thing. And we have all 4 taxing entities have to agree that what we do for businesses in town benefits all of us. And I think we all have seen that. So I think we continue to listen, we continue to invest, we continue to make our city a better place to live. We continue to, like I say, we divide the specials on the roads. We pay 80, you pay 20. We continue, and the university is scheduled to be fixed this year, thank God, because my truck's about to wear out. So I think we continue to be active. We continue to listen to people who want to invest in our community, and we continue to help them because the rising water raises all boats.
Robin, that one was specifically for you. So 60 seconds. Go ahead.
Yes, I do support tax incentives. I think we need to make sure that we're using those wisely. And so rather than a case-by-case basis as each project comes forward, we need to be intentional about what our goals are as a community and ensure then that each one of these requests that comes in supports those goals. So we can be solving 2 problems at the same time or 3 problems at the same time. So not only getting new buildings, new businesses, new things developed in our community, but making sure that perhaps that fits with whether it's wage and benefit standards that would help address poverty issues, whether it's sustainability standards. We need to determine what those goals are as a community and make sure that these are smart investments that can help us address those challenges at the same time as bringing new opportunities to Grand Forks.
And Brandon, 60 seconds.
Yep. No, incentives are a nature of the beast these days. I think if you're not going to fight to use incentives to bring business in, that you could lose some business. We've got a Renaissance zone downtown. Now we've extended that to kind of the Midtown area around 17th. I've talked about extending it even further and having incentives available citywide so that we can increase our tax base in the future. Opening up a TIF on the Gateway Corridor, the Columbia Corridor, the Midtown, and then a case-by-case basement for abatements, tax abatements if you have employment growth and the certain amount of labor that's used that's local. But these incentives will bring jobs here, and that will create growth for everybody. So it's important to have development and have a city that's growing, and that's what incentives should be used for, so people can get jobs and lift themselves up.
30 seconds apiece for rebuttal, starting with Mike.
Well, there's nothing to rebut. I think we've been doing a good job. What we're doing is working. We're all going to reap the benefits of that success.
Robin?
Yes, tax incentives are one of the things that I heard about the most when I announced my campaign. People questioning, either very much support, very much against. I think what we can all get behind is making sure that those are wise investments and that we are very cautious, not just about engaging the tax collecting entities, but making sure that those really advance our goals.
Okay. And Brandon, 30 seconds.
Well, I think it's important if we're going to do incentives that we make them available to everybody so that there's a wide swath of people that can use them and to promote the infill and promote redevelopment on blighted projects, stuff like that. It is really important. And I think we've covered it all here.
We're on the 6th question. It goes Robin and then Brandon and then Mike. What makes you a more effective partner with the city council than the other candidates? And so for 60 seconds, Robin.
Thank you. Partnerships are how I function. That is my leadership style. That was my teaching style. That is how I accomplish things in the community. I think good leadership involves not just telling people what to do, but doing it alongside them and helping coming up with a shared vision. You can get buy-in that way, and you can get much more support that way. You get better ideas. I'm a strong believer that none of us is as smart as all of us. And so my intention, and that is reflected throughout my plan, would be to work together with council members, work together with the community, ensure that we're able to get full public participation in the decision-making process.
Brandon?
Well, I think my leadership in sports and in business is strong in this area. You have to be able to work with everybody and get the most out of your team. Working with the city council is going to be no different. We're going to be working together on everything. And if you don't have a city council behind things, anything that you want to get done is not going to get done. So we'll be able to make compromises and work together, just like I've done my whole life, whether it be business or on a team as a leader.
And Mike, 60 seconds.
Well, I think my leadership style of collaboration has worked quite well for 20 years, and we have a good working relationship. And I found that the council, they're thoughtful, they're intelligent, they're informed, and I think we work well together. And we all have the best interests of the community at heart. So we have a common goal, and we get there together. And I think that's been the hallmark of my administration, is working with each other, supporting each other, respecting each other. And so I think it's got a good history. I think it'll have a good future.
30 seconds for rebuttals or further comments, starting with Robin.
think what's distinctive about what I bring to the table is that I have been the person who actually leads those efforts in that hands-on type of approach of pulling people together, often people with very different kinds of points of view, and being able to respect them, engage them, and have them all work together on problem solving. And I've done that in the community for 20 years.
Brandon, 30 seconds.
Well, I think all three of us have leadership skills in different areas. And, that's great to see. And it's going to take collaboration and working together. I think you got three people that are strong, good leaders. And I think all three of us will be able to work with the council.
And Mike, 30 seconds.
I think it comes back to mutual respect. And I think having the mutual goal and realizing why we're here. We're elected by the constituents to make this a better place. We're elected by the constituents to protect and serve. And they all want the best value for their tax dollar. And that's what we're striving for. So I think listening is a big part of it. Working together is a big part of it. And I don't care who gets the credit as long as it gets done.
On our seventh question, it will start with Brandon, followed by Mike, and then Robin. What is your vision for city government in the coming 4 years? Are there specific programs you would cut? Are there specific initiatives you would pursue? Brandon, 60 seconds.
I think that comes down to business, being business friendly. And the biggest thing I want to see is the city staying out of the way of business and saying, what can we do for business? How can we make business better? Instead of getting in the way. And I've just met with so many people. You have this sort of rumor that's going around, but the dozens, the people that I've talked to in business, it's been stifling, and it's been stifling for a long time. So my platform is a completely pro-business, and we're going to be working really hard to make sure that what businesses need, they get. We're not standing in the way anymore. We're going to make sure that what they get happens. What they want happens.
And Mike, 60 seconds.
It's funny. If you live long enough, you'll see it come around again. We had the business friendly task force about 10 years ago where we heard the same stories. And so we got the businesses together and say, how can we help you? When you have a one-stop shop where you go to City Hall. We do use that for events as well. You call Cheryl in public information, you just make one phone call. So we listen to the businesses. We want the businesses to succeed. They wouldn't be investing in our community if they didn't feel like they had a voice. And so it's interesting. We keep going this way, but I think you have to address the problem, fix the problem, and that's what we're working with our business leaders to do. And that's why we're partners with the chamber. I think the city has a seat at the chamber. We're dues paying members because I think you need a seat at the table to be credible. And then you know what the problems are. Then you can interact to help solve the problems and you have credibility. So it's interesting to see things go around and around, but we addressed it and we're facing it. And I learned in the Air Force, you don't complain to somebody who can't fix your problem. You complain to the people that can fix your problem. So if you have a problem with business, come to us so we can fix it.
Robin, 60 seconds.
My vision for Grand Forks government is to make sure that it has an easy on-ramp and that people can be engaged. And public participation, community engagement is a challenging task. It takes specific skill sets. And we've done a number of good things, I think, as a city, a number of efforts that have been tried and implemented. But the fact remains that if you ask an average resident, what can you do about a city policy? They don't know. And we can do something by having a Make It Happen Center, by having that one clear place that people go where if they want to open a business, if they want to start a nonprofit, if they want to host an event, as Mayor Brown mentioned, if they want to change a policy, there is one place where they can go to get answers. And this is not with any additional city funding, but it's rearranging existing services so that there is that one entry point and we can make sure that we have the citizens and the residents' views in mind when we make decisions.
30 seconds for rebuttal or further comments, starting with Brandon.
I think we've heard a lot about task forces and committees and groups and studies. And I think people are getting sick of endless studies and committees spending money on stuff and not getting anything done. How about just having a business-friendly mayor that's in there that a business person can go directly to and get an answer? I don't think that there's any easier way than doing that. I don't know how many more task forces and committees we can live with in this town.
Mike, 30 seconds.
We did the Buxton study a few years ago, if you remember, and that was to see what businesses we were losing to other communities. So we and the chamber both invested in the Buxton report, and we brought 17 businesses to town, including Hobby Lobby and the Olive Garden. So we do listen, we do respond, we do recruit, and I think we're very successful. And you need the committees to get input, and that's we want to hear from the people, and they help us solve the problems.
Robin, 30 seconds.
There is no surer way to shut out public input than to go in decisively and take action. We need to engage people's points of view because they are a great source of wisdom and insight in this community. If anyone has been on any committee with me, you know we listen hard and we move fast. I am the one with the track record that demonstrates an ability to take action and make change in the community.
We're on our 8th question. It'll start with Mike, followed by Robin, and then Brandon. Has the city's and the mayor's response been adequate and appropriate during the coronavirus pandemic, including the outbreak at LM Wind Power? Mike, 60 seconds.
Thank you. So if you remember, it's pandemic, there was denial both sides. It's no worse than the flu, and back and forth and back and forth. And so the response to LM Wind Power, we had the CDC guidelines in place. We communicated to them that there was an employee concern. The governor said the mayor didn't have power there because it's a Homeland Security business. The city attorney said the mayor didn't have power there because it's not our purview to send in public health or enforce the guidelines. And the director of public health said it wasn't our place to be there. And workplace safety is an OSHA issue, in public health, we can close restaurants for public safety. We can't close businesses. Yes, and I shut City Hall on March 18th to stop the spread. And we were in concert with the governor when we reduced 7% of our economy to help stop the spread. And I think we acted appropriately and timely to curb this. So we have fortunately not had our health system overrun. So yes, I think we've managed it as well as anybody else has or could.
Thank you. Robin, 60 seconds.
I first want to thank all of those who have made sure that the city has the protections that we have. That includes public health, city staff, of course, healthcare, everyone throughout the community who has worked to make sure that we have what we need during this crisis. It is significant to acknowledge that while yes, the system was set up a certain way and that system was followed for LM, we need to acknowledge that system failed. We have hundreds of people who are sick in this community. We know that that then continues that spread. When a system fails, we need to go back to the table and figure out what do we need to do to make this not happen the next time. That's what I have not seen. That's what we need as a community to ensure that we are safe. We were able to move quickly on changing certain elements, like making sure that we could get access to alcohol from area restaurants and bars. That was very helpful to them. We moved quickly on those types of matters. We need to go back to the table and figure out a better plan so that workers are protected in Grand Forks.
Brandon, 60 seconds.
Well, obviously, I think it's really tough. You know, it's a pandemic. It's really hard to point blame anywhere. The LM situation was a difficult one. And I think it gets back to kind of being a full-time mayor and keeping your hands on it. You know, being a doctor and passing it off to public health, and public health passing that back. And it might not have been any of those entities' job, but it certainly wasn't the EDC's job. So I don't know why they were the ones that were sent there in the end. That's kind of scary to me. And that's where maybe some of the oversight and the leadership needs to be there. And accountability wise, nobody has been willing to take accountability for that. And not even to ask LM to take accountability. I don't know if we're afraid that they're going to leave town or we're just scared, but we need to hold people accountable when there's stuff like that's happening. There was this reported there was a death out of this. We don't know for sure if that's COVID related or not, but it's been a tough time. We need to have a strong leader. We need to have someone that's there full time.
30 seconds each for rebuttal or further comments, starting with Mike.
Well, I think that this was our first pandemic. We're learning about this pandemic. We did not have any COVID-19 cases in town. We responded by sharing the communication. EDC offered to take the information because they had a relationship with management, and they knew it would get to the top of the chain and it would be acted on. Neil Carlson did an iNews study that showed that they were complying, and we didn't get any further complaints, so it was fixed.
Robin?
What I am hearing from workers in Grand Forks is uncertainty. They need their paychecks, but they also need to know that they are safe. And right now, we do not have those types of protections in place. People do not have those kinds of assurances. And we need to make sure that they have that sort of outlet, that they have a place that they can go. If OSHA is not sufficient, we need to make sure that public health has the resources and the authority that they need in a crisis situation. It might not be time for operating as usual. We need to change the system.
And Brandon, 50 seconds.
Well, I still think it's tough. And even now, we're still not taking accountability. I think it's tough to look at that. And we haven't been in a pandemic before, and we've done the best we could with it. Being a little bit more willing to listen to businesses. We can have these meetings and these conferences and all this stuff, but if we're not getting action, our plan can't be to have a plan later. The plan needs to happen decisively and quickly, so there's clear rules and clear, concrete what you need to do out there for people.
Our ninth question. We start with Robin, and then Brandon, and then Mike, and it's 60 seconds apiece. One of the most notable campaign ideas so far has come from Brandon, who proposes a 2.5% annual cap on property tax increases. Mike, you and some city staff have said it's not legally workable. Brandon, would you please expand on this proposal? And Mike and Robin, what do you think of it? And tell us your own ideas if you have any about housing and or property taxes. So that begins with Robin for 60 seconds.
Absolutely. We know the housing situation, affordable housing, is a complicated one in Grand Forks. We have concrete reasons for that. We need to be creative about coming up with solutions, but we need to make sure that those are actually workable and legal solutions. And there are opportunities to do that. Changing state law somehow is not a path forward. What we can do is get developers to the table and tell us, what is it that you need from us to make sure that we can build affordable housing? Cutting property taxes at a time when sales taxes are going to be down because of the pandemic, and when state aid is potentially threatened to, cutting property taxes just will ensure that the city's budget drops and we're not able to provide the services that we need to for the people of Grand Forks.
Brandon, 60 seconds.
Well, I think this simply shows the small-mindedness of our government. Instead of figuring out how to make something happen, we're figuring out why there's a roadblock. And that's the same way we've done it with businesses, and we're doing it now. This is a way to build confidence for people that they're not going to have their taxes go through the roof next year and not be able to afford to live here anymore. Affordable housing is a big issue. We need more competition in land. We need more competition in builders. And we need to have a more efficient government so that the cost of ownership isn't so high. We're the third largest city in the state. We need to start acting like it. If we need to work with the state legislators to make things happen, we will, and I will as leader of this city.
Mike?
Good luck. Thank you. So property tax goes to the general fund. The general fund pays the salaries of our first responders and teachers. So that is how you get your money to do the job we do. And I just told you earlier that per capita, we're on par with the five major cities in North Dakota. And we have not raised mills for the last like 4 or 5 years because we're at that sweet spot. When the mill goes up in value, it helps us do our job. Like the airport gets 5 mills, it gets more money to do its job. I think our founding fathers were very smart in the system that they set up. And I think that we are watching every tax dollar. And between 2000 and 2008, we decreased 29 positions. And since then, we've added back positions because we've had to add 10 policemen, 19 firemen, 4 detox people. So we respond to the needs that we have, and we're doing it very efficiently and very effectively. I'm very proud of what we have accomplished together.
30 seconds apiece for rebuttal or further comment, starting with Robin.
All right. If we somehow do not have time to spend a few weeks or a month or 6 weeks listening to people as we make decisions, then I'm not sure how we have time to spend years working on statewide proposals to be able to come up with solutions. We need to be much more aggressive and focus on the things that we can control within the state, while also in some certain circumstances working, of course, with state legislators.
And Brandon, 30 seconds.
We've added 50 more employees since 2016. That's only 4 years. And then we've talked about adding 10 more employees that we're holding off on now. I haven't seen a whole lot of increase in services over that time, and I don't know what service we were going to increase with those 10 more employees. When they talked about it on KNOX, it was support staff. It was a pretty vague description of those 10. But we need to be more efficient as a city government and let the taxpayers decide how to spend their own money, not spend it for them.
And Mike, 30 seconds.
Yeah, but we have a job to do, and we're doing a very good job with it. As the city went from 49,000 to 62,000 people, you have more roads to plow, more garbage to pick up, more people to protect. You needed 2 new fire stations. So that's why we added people. And it wasn't 50 more people we've added. We've added 10 engineers, because you have to consult that project to get it paid for. Consultants cost more than engineers. So we've added people where it was appropriate to continue to do the job we need to do to keep us safe.
All right, that ends the questions tonight. Now we move to, now we move to closing statements. As I've noted, and as you all know, we drew this out yesterday for the closing statement order. Robin will go first, followed by Mike, followed by Brandon at the end. So that's 2 minutes apiece. Robin, go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you again for hosting the debate tonight, and for everyone for participating. What this campaign has showed me is what I long believed about Grand Forks, and it has shown me what it is that we are capable of. And I think it's shown a lot of people in this community what they are capable of. This is not a self-funded campaign. This is a collaborative grassroots effort. And that is what makes this campaign distinctive. We have 250 donors. We have 75 volunteers. We have the community stepping up because they are energized. And when you can take that to the level of a mayor's office, and you have that ability to mobilize and inspire people, they can make great things happen in the community. I am ready to do this with you, Grand Forks. I thank you for your involvement up to this point, and I am excited about these next weeks and years.
Mike, 2 minutes.
Yeah, how many seconds do we get?
You get 2 minutes.
Oh my gosh. So we went into 2020 poised at greatness with this $1 billion boom, construction boom working together. And now we're looking at a Microsoft Tech Park, which I think is going to greatly enhance the quality of life in our community, bring young entrepreneurs to town. And we already started with air autonomy here. So I would like another 4 years to finish these projects. I have no personal agenda. I have no personal gains. I'd like the opportunity to continue moving the city into economic recovery from the pandemic. As a physician as well, I'd like to lead us through that. Here's to the next $1 billion boom. Leadership, experienced leadership is important in these times. We don't have time for the mayor to have a learning curve. So I think experienced leadership is very important now more than ever. And my office will continue to help Grand Forks with a smart business restart program and the $1 billion boom. As a veteran, I have a great relationship with the base and understanding of the military importance here. And now more than ever, Grand Forks needs consistent, experienced leadership. So please vote Michael Brown for mayor.
And Brandon, 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'm not going to need 2 minutes. It's time for new leadership in Grand Forks. It's time for a fresh face on the city. We've got new leadership at Altru. We've got new leadership at UND. And between those 3 entities, we can put the past behind us, work together, and move Grand Forks forward into the future. There's no more comparing us to Minot, comparing us to Fargo. Going forward in the future, people are going to be comparing themselves to Grand Forks. That's all I have. Thank you, everybody.
Very good. I think the newsiest thing of the day is that nobody used their 2 minutes. I don't think I've ever seen that. Candidates, thank you very much for participating tonight in the Herald's 2020 mayoral debate. As a newspaper, but also as voters, we appreciate your taking the time to help educate us and others about the things you stand for and hope for in our community. And thank you, Herald readers and all viewers, for being here as we worked our way through our first ever digital debate. Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Yeah.
I muted it. Mhm. And I'm clicking out.